And we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for joining us for the All AC Biweekly Call for today, January 25th, 2017, the first of our All AC Biweekly Calls for the year 2017. We had to miss the last one because we were in the middle of a very aggressive, exciting, and successful enrollment period. So congratulations to all of you on having done a wonderful job with that. And now we're back to the regular scheduled process, right? Today we do have a very full agenda. We are going to spend a little bit of time again with our mission moment. We'll be talking a little bit about one of our Wall of Fame honorees out of the Shark area. Then we're going to be talking about a new JFP process that's going to include a discussion about what's going on with their having them over to 5.9. You can't see anything but my blue screen. Let me try again. How's that? Is that better? How about that? Is that better? There we go. Including the 5.9 and also some information about conferencing. And then time allowing, we will make sure that we are covering our top performers corner. We've had, I won't tell you who it is, but I will say that she has been ready to present now for 6 weeks. Hopefully this week will be the lucky time for us, and we'll be able to have our top performer present to us today. Well, 2017 has started with a bang. We've had a very successful enrollment period for the January start. Congratulations, all of you. I do want to remind you all that, and I know that all of you are very aware that we need to be watching for our students' logins and those kinds of things, but make sure that you're taking the time to do that. As soon as we're finished with today's presentation, I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions. We will answer them as quickly as we can. We're going to get that information out to everybody on the blog and in other ways as quickly as you can, but make sure that in the midst of trying to get questions answered that you're working with your students and making sure that they are logging in and getting all of those things taken care of so that they can make it all the way through the first week of the start. As always, we do have our rules of engagement. We would ask no anonymous questions, please. If you've got questions that you want to type into the chat room or into the Q&A room, please make sure that you sign them with your name. It gives us an opportunity to be able to not only address you appropriately as we're answering the question, but also be able to follow up with you if there is any extra information that we need to provide you in order to make sure we can give you the correct and complete answer that you're looking for. Remember, the chat room is not necessarily going to be monitored for questions and answers. Most of us can see everything that's going on, including some of the private messages that you might want to be sending back and forth. We can still see them, so don't think you can pass notes in class. But just recognize that we're not really going to be watching that from a Q&A standpoint. Today is a little bit different than we've done in some. We're going to be trying something new, and the idea is because our presentations, because the information that we're trying to share with you is so detailed, we're going to be presenting information first, and then after the presentations have all been concluded, we'll have some time for questions and answers where we will be looking into the Q&A room. If necessary, if we run out of time, or if we feel that having those questions documented will be of value, we will make sure that we publish a list of the questions and their answers onto the blog in addition to the recording that we will be putting out a little bit later on today. And finally, as I mentioned, the blog and the recording, the blog for the recording and other details will be going up within 24 hours. It may not be up this afternoon, but it will be up as quickly as we can before tomorrow. So give us 24 hours for the blog recording and any of the other information that we're covering during this All AC Biweekly Call to make sure that we've got enough time to get everything vetted and put together in a way that makes it useful. If you haven't been checking the blog, because the start of the year came along and you thought, well, there's probably not anything going on to the blog, so I'll just leave it alone, I would encourage you, take some time. Go back out to the blog and start renewing that process of going out on a regular basis to take a look. So the first thing that we want to start with is our mission moment. We're going to be talking about a young lady by the name of Yvonne Probst. Yvonne is currently a student with us. She is going through our accounting program. She has not completed her program, but she is well over the halfway point. When she began with us, she was hired as a bookkeeper for an organization and has since been moved to senior staff accountant because of the education that she's been receiving and the skills that she's been developing as she's been going through her education process. She does have her sights set on the controller position. In fact, in her statement that she wrote for the Wall of Fame, she said, "I am not the controller yet, but I am doing all of the jobs of the controller and I'm just waiting to graduate so that I can receive that position title." She did say that if she was to give any piece of advice to students, current or future, it would be to utilize your instructors. They have a lot of good information. Try to attend as many lectures as possible, or at least view the recordings. The discussion boards are also a good place to learn about your classmates and bounce ideas off each other. Stop thinking about it and just do it. This information can certainly be valuable for all of us as we're working with students at different places. Being aware of the experiences that other students that are being successful have had, and being able to share those experiences and those insights with students that you're working with is of an estimable help to them. So make sure that you're sharing that today with Yvonne, and as we go through the newsletter and other places with some of our other success stories, make sure you're sharing that information with your students as you can. We indicated that JFPs are going to be starting to work with 5.9, and we've got a lot of information for you about that. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the information and how that's going to work, we wanted to talk to you about a couple of the benefits. The first benefit that we hope to see as a result of moving our JFPs to 5.9 is that we minimize your wait time. Instead of needing to go into the Skype room and try and negotiate or try and find somebody that's available, you'll simply be in 5.9, and those calls should connect much more quickly as we are moving forward. Granted, there's always going to be times when there's going to be a wait, but we're hoping that this move to having the JFPs on 5.9 will decrease your wait times and make it easier for you to get your students into the FAFSA quickly. Additionally, you won't have to worry about whether or not anybody is getting taken ahead of you in the line. I have not heard this happen very often, but you know, whenever there's people, there's always the possibility that someone is getting preferential treatment. Someone is getting taken earlier than their actual time in their line. So just recognize that as we move to the JFPs being on 5.9, you'll recognize as you're using the process that it will put you in line in a queue, and no one will be able to get in front of you. No one will move you out of your place in line. You will be taken in the order in which you were getting ready for that experience. And last but not least, one of the best benefits for this is that it really puts the entire call in your control. If you are in the queue to wait to get connected for a FAFSA, if it's not going to work, you're going to be, you know, if the student that you're working with has to leave, they've run out of time, you have complete control. You don't have to get back into the FAFSA in the warm Skype room into the Skype room and say, hey, I need to change the transfer time, I'm getting out of line. You just simply disconnect the call and get another one to set up another call another time that you will work with your student. You get your student and then connect them immediately into the FAFSA room. So it really gives you a little bit more control than maybe you've had in the past as far as making sure that FAFSA gets handled in the way that we want it to be done. There is a lot of information that is very technical about the way this process is going to run. Megan McKee, our financial planning trainer, is the one who has prepared the majority of that information. And so I'm going to stop the share on my side and allow Megan to take over the presentation. Megan, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Todd, for getting us started here on this call. Let me go ahead and get the PowerPoint going. All right. So like Todd mentioned, we are going to be transitioning our junior planners into using 5.9. And during this call, we are going to be going over the details of exactly what this means. I am sure there are going to be lots of questions about this, but again, I will be covering quite a bit of information. So more than likely, your questions will be answered as the presentation is going on. For those of you that use the Salt Lake City FA Skype room right now, we will actually be starting this process tomorrow, Thursday, the 26th of January. And those that use the Phoenix Skype room will actually begin on Monday, the 30th of January. So again, just make sure you guys are remembering whichever Skype room you are using. If you are in Salt Lake, you will start this process tomorrow with our juniors. Now, let's go ahead and start with some things that will stay the same, right? We always like to know what's going to stay the same here. That will be the information that you need to have ready to send to the junior planners before you send the student through. So of course, like you have now, you will need to have the EA and the past CLA sent to them while you are on the phone, and then the FA template and the student in campus view within 5 minutes. Another part of the process that will stay the same will be the loan checks and the financial aid requests in the Skype room. The information for what is needed for both loan checks and FAAs does not change as well. Now, I am sure this looks very familiar to all of you. This is the FA template, and this is another piece that will not be changing. So like always, in order to request an FAA, you will need to have this completely filled out. If for some reason the financial information is not complete, which is that non-highlighted information in the yellow, that is okay. You will treat it as if it is a FAFSA, and you will want to conference yourself and the student into the queue, and the junior will help them complete the template and then schedule the financial aid appointment for them on the call. Now, currently, you are requesting your FAFSAs in the Skype room and waiting for a junior to take your request. You then utilize the transfer feature in 5.9 to send your student over. You're also able to see the exact order and when you will be helped next as well. Starting tomorrow for Salt Lake City, we will be changing this process, and the junior planners will now be using 5.9 to take your FAFSA requests. So you'll be utilizing the conference option in 5.9 to place yourself and the student into the new FP transfer to either Salt Lake City or Phoenix queue, depending on the center in which you work. Jamie, she will be showing us a little bit later what this will look like. Again, there is not a way for us to determine the exact order of who is next through 5.9, but the juniors, they do have the ability to see how many calls are going to be waiting in the queue. So if there are ever more than 3 calls waiting at a time, the FA Skype room will still be updated, letting you know how many calls are currently in queue. So I would definitely recommend having that warm transfer room open when you guys get in the morning, so then you can kind of keep an eye and seeing, if there are any calls in queue. This is also why it is so important to be ready before you conference. The junior could answer in as quickly as a few seconds, or it could, obviously take longer as well. Kind of like Todd mentioned, this is a lot like the QT, where it is first come, first serve. So whoever is waiting the longest, they will be the ones to be helped first. During the time that you are waiting for a junior to answer, you can still be working with your student, since there will be no hold music while you wait. So once you start the conference process, you will hear a voice that will say connecting, and then it will go silent. And this is what will allow you to still be talking with the student, getting things done. And really, while you're waiting, you may want to be prepared with some different things that you can be talking about. Some examples of this would be the docs or scholarships, courses they may be taking while they're going to be in school, preparing them for that early admissions course, the background check if that's applicable. And of course, if you guys have any other ideas or other things that you may talk with your student about that could help with that time, please share, and that will definitely help benefit everybody. Now, one of the great things is if there is a long wait time, after 10 minutes, you guys will actually hear on the phone someone say, "1 moment, please." And then that means that you are now being moved to the other center's queue to see if someone there is available. So an example here would be if you are a Salt Lake City AC, you will be transferred to the Phoenix line after 10 minutes, and and then if you're a Phoenix AC, you'll be transferred to the Salt Lake City line as well. And then if someone there is available, they'll pick up and help you. So whatever junior planner takes your call, they will actually be scheduling the FA appointment with their center's planners. So you might get a planner from either Salt Lake City or Phoenix, just kind of depending on who does answer those calls. Now, when the junior does answer the phone, they will simply say, "This is Megan McKee in the Financial Aid Department. How can I help you?" Now, we have told them that they need to make sure they say their full name and that they need to say it slowly and clearly. That way we can ensure you know exactly who to send that email to. We have actually also prepared a script for the ACs to utilize that will help with a smoother transition. And so here is the script for you that you can have on hand. That way you can ensure you get all of the information over to that junior planner. Now, just as it is important for the junior to say their name slowly and clearly, it is also just as equally important for you to do that as well. So that way they know exactly who they're going to be working with. The student's full name will allow the junior to have that information so that they can have something to go off of. Now, it is not required that you guys use this verbatim. However, our testing group, they have reported that it does help with the smoother transition. Remember though, the junior, the student, and yourself will all be on the phone at the same time. So you don't want to be telling the student that you will be getting them over with one of our best junior financial planners. They're going to help them complete the FAFSA. They're great. You're so lucky to be working with them. And then just to have the junior come on the phone, say their name, and then you to be sitting there saying, well, wait, what is your name? How do you spell it? I can't find you in Outlook. Where are you? So the easier, the simpler, the clearer that you guys are able to talk, then that will definitely help with that. Because really all that will do is discredit everything that you just told the student prior to starting the conference process. A good example of this would be one of our junior planners that we have here in Salt Lake. Her name is Leva Fanoi Moana. Now, I'm sure you guys can all imagine if you were to be getting her as a junior planner, she's fantastic. But if she were to speed through saying her name and you weren't able to understand, you would definitely have a little bit more of a difficult time trying to find out where you'll be needing to send that email to. So to help eliminate that, we have actually already created a little cheat sheet here for you guys. We will be sending this out to your ADOAs. We will also be having this on our blog. But this will really list out all of the names that we have in both of the Salt Lake and the Phoenix locations for our junior planners. This way, if you do come across a name that you don't recognize or you don't know how to spell it, you can look up the name on this list and then it will be exactly how they spell it in Outlook. One thing I wanted to point out though is that some of the names have parentheses around them. And that just means those may be some of the nicknames. So if one of them answers and says, this is Liz Sheffield in the financial aid department, how can I help you? You can look to this list and identify that in Outlook, she goes by Elizabeth Sheffield. Okay, and also there's two different Sunnies. We have one in Salt Lake and one in Phoenix. So again, be listening for what their full name is. So then at that time, you can have the email ready to go for them, and then you can send it through and know exactly who to send this to. As we mentioned before, this part is not going to change. And we can't stress to you guys how important it is that you have that financial aid email ready to send to the junior planners before you start the process. Now our juniors, they won't have any information to start the call without this email. So it is very imperative that this is ready to send to the juniors upon them answering the calls. We have decided that if the email with the EA and CLA is not sent to them immediately, the junior will then email you, your ADOA, and their ADOFP letting everybody know this. Because again, if you complete the transfer with the student, or the conference, with the student and the junior, and they don't have the email with any of their information, there's no way for them to look up to see if their FAFSA is completed or their FSA ID. Of course, they will be building that rapport with them and asking questions, but we don't want to have there be too much of a lag between that and them being able to fully start their process with them. Now, as part of the change that is taking place, instead of using the transfer option in 5.9, we will now be using the conference option in 5.9. You have heard me talking about the conference option throughout this call, and Jamie is now going to walk us through the new process here. So let's see, Jamie, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We are going to play a video here for you guys that will show you the process, and then Jamie will come back on the phone as well, and then we will walk you through it.
We will begin by doing a step-by-step demonstration on how to utilize a conference option. You will notice that for this demonstration, a call has already been launched. The first step is to click on the conference button. Next, you will click on speed dial. Once your options populate, you will scroll down to find the appropriate speed dial. You can either choose FP Transfer SLC or FP Transfer PHX, whichever is appropriate for you. Once you've highlighted the appropriate speed dial, you're going to click on Select. Your next step is to click on One-Step Conference. This will place you and your prospect into the financial aid queue. As soon as the junior financial planner enters the conference, you will introduce the call, click on Leave, choose the appropriate disposition, and finally click Done. All right, people, and we know how much you love hearing recordings and things like that, but you're going to get the real deal. You're going to get the live version. So we're going to go ahead and do a live demo for you guys, just so you can see what the other side sounds like once the call is picked up. So give me one moment to share my screen. All right, can everyone see my Velocify in 5.9? Fantastic. Okay. Now, just like we discussed in the video, we are going to transfer a call. And if you notice, I already have, sorry, I got to get the habit out of saying transferring. We're going to conference a call. And as you can see, we already have a call in progress. So the very first step would be to hit conference. Okay. Then afterwards, if you guys remember, you're going to click on speed dial. And keep in mind that your student is on the phone during this whole time. So I'm going to run through it, show you again what we just saw in the video, and then we're going to do the live demo, okay? So you're going to click on speed dial, go through and select either SLC or PHX, depending on what center you're at. You're going to hit select and then hit one-step conference. Okay, now we're going to do it live. So I'm going to pretend like I have Megan on the phone. All right, Megan. So the next step is going to be to get you over to our financial planners. Now, I want to remind you that I will need a copy of your documents, which consists of your ID, your social, and your diploma. Now, do you have access to those?
I do.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Megan. So now while we're waiting for one of those planners, you can either text those to me, you can take a picture of them, just make sure all four corners are available, or you can scan an email to them, whichever one works best for you.
Hello, this is Cora Bark in the Financial Aid Department. How can I help you?
Hi, Cora. This is Jamie Barlocker, and I have my student, Megan McKee, on the phone, and she is applying for our Bachelor's in Business Administration. We're excited that we're going to be helping her with her financial aid today. I'm going to send her information over, and you should have that any minute. All right, Megan, so you are in the best hands with Cora. She'll make sure all of your questions are answered, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. All right, guys. See you later. And there you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Is there a flow chart for this? That's a fantastic question, Rachel. There will be. We will be providing what we like to call in the training team a cheat sheet. Those of you that have gone through apprenticeship either recently or in apprenticeship will know all about those cheat sheets and how we love them. So yes, we will be providing a cheat sheet. We'll send them out to ADOAs, and they will also be published on the blog. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to hand it back over to Megan so she can answer the rest of the questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jamie. Okay, so really, you guys, that is the process with the new way of how the juniors will now be taking your requests. I do see some of the questions here in the Q&A. Tamara asked, how do we know if we are asking for Salt Lake City or Phoenix after 10 minutes? That's a great question. What will happen with that is when you are very first connected with with the queue, it will say connecting, and then they will go silent. That's where you will work with your student. You can still continue to help them with the things that you're needing. And then after that, if it's been 10 minutes, you will then hear 1 moment, please. And then when you hear 1 moment, please, that means that they are now being transferred over to the Phoenix queue. And then it'll say connecting, and if that happens, that means you're being transferred back to the Salt Lake queue. So each time you hear one of those sayings, then that means you're being transferred to one of the different queues. And then again, when they do answer the junior and they say their name, you can look up on your little cheat sheet to see who they are, and then you can go from there. Cindy said, maybe I missed it, but what about loan checks? So again, remember, loan checks and scheduling of financial aid appointments will still be done in the warm transfer, the financial aid Skype room. So you'll want to make sure that you're still taking care of those there. The difference mainly here is we are no longer requesting FAFSAs in that financial aid Skype room. We will now be doing it in where you will be going and conferencing into the queue and then getting in there to do that. Dina, how do we know we are in line? So you'll know you're in line because when you click on One Step Conference, it will say connecting, and then it'll go quiet, and you'll just be waiting in line and waiting until somebody answers your call at that time. Now, as far as where you will be in line, we unfortunately don't have that information. We're not able to see the exact order of what every call is. All we can see is how many calls are waiting at that certain time. So in the queue, it will show us if there are 3 calls waiting or 2 calls waiting, but it does not actually tell us Dina, FAFSA, John, FAFSA, so on and so forth. It'll just tell us the number of calls. Julie asked, does this only affect juniors, not RT or military? So this is only the process for getting a FAFSA help with our juniors. As far as RT and military goes, you will still stay with the same process that you have been doing that. Let's see, Laura. So we request in the queue, get someone to say call in, then call in and wait for a junior. I believe let me make sure I'm understanding. You're saying, so you're going to start the conference process and then wait for a junior and to pick up once they are able to take your call, and then you will complete and leave, do the introduction and then leave the conference. Dina, no, you will not be requesting FAFSA helps in the warm transfer room. Hannah, are we still requesting FAAs through the Skype room? Yes, so FAAs and loan checks will still be requested through the Skype room. Heather, is there a way to see how long the wait is? Maybe through warm transfer. This does help us to see if a transfer makes sense. Absolutely, I understand. Again, unfortunately, we won't be able to know exactly how long the wait is, because if you waited for 10 minutes for Salt Lake, there may be a Phoenix agent that's available to take your call, so it may only be 11 minutes. Whereas if they're busy and then we don't know exactly a way to say this is how long it will be. We can just know. That's why if you can keep that FA Skype room open, if there is a queue more than 3 calls, if there's more than 3 calls in the queue, then they will update that in that FA Skype room, and you can know, okay, there's 3 calls ahead of me, or whatever the number is before you go to start the conference process. Morgan, is there any way you can put how many people are in line, the number? That way we are prepared to wait if there's a lot of people. Absolutely, yep. If there's more than three calls in the queue, we will be putting that in that warm transfer room. Lyman, if we are just needing an FAA, not a FAFSA, do we come through the conferencing or use the Skype room? Great question. It depends on if you have that FA template completely filled out. With that FA template, if it is not filled out completely, meaning that financial aid information in the middle, which is the adjusted gross income, the EFC, the DRN, if that is not in there, then you will treat it as if it is a FAFSA, go into the FAQ, and then you will wait for somebody to answer. Let them know that the FAFSA is completed. We are just needing to complete the FA template, and then they will schedule them the financial aid appointment. Now, if you have the FA template completely filled out and done, let's say it's a reschedule from somebody else prior, then you can go into that FA warm transfer room and do it there. Tammy, back to Michelle's question. Cora said the same number of junior FPs will be working on late shifts, but really won't it be Phoenix and Salt Lake City junior FPs available on late shift, doubling the number of FPs? Again, it just kind of depends. Yes, there will still be, their schedules are not changing. So if they were originally here late nights, they're going to still be keeping those late night shifts. But if our juniors in Salt Lake are busy during that time and someone in Phoenix is available, then it will be transferred into a Phoenix queue after waiting for 10 minutes. And we do the 10-minute because we want to keep them in there with that same center. But of course, we don't want it to be at a disservice to our students. So after 10 minutes, you'll be transferred to the other center, or you'll be connected to their queue, and then you'll be there until somebody answers, and then you'll be sent back to the Salt Lake queue if that is the case. Saul, are juniors still setting up FAs with same process as not where FPs are assigned teams? As far as setting up the FAAs, again, if a Phoenix AC is calling and they get a Salt Lake City junior planner, then they will be going through and looking, because they won't have that assigned team because they're in a Phoenix an AC, then they will actually be going and looking to see in the Salt Lake Center who has the lowest, and they already have that process built into how they will be doing that. In terms of military, does it matter what junior takes it? I'm not exactly sure I understand that one, sorry.
She wants to know what junior takes the transfer, the FAFSA transfer, if they're military or not.
So yeah, if they're military or not, I think it would just be your same process. If you're just transferring into the normal worm transfer room or asking for the FAFSA help in the normal worm transfer room, then you'll just be the same process as you are now. Or you'll just do that, but you'll go into the FAFSA queue in the 5-9. What about situations where students are on a tight schedule? Example, I'll be at the library tomorrow at 3:30, and if there's a big queue, I can't request ahead of time because I don't have them on the phone. Or can I call in the conference alone and then call the student when the JFP answers? Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that because there's no guarantee that we'll be able to get the student on the phone right away if they're not on the phone with you. So really, it's kind of like it is now. I mean, if you have a student that is at the library at 3:30 and you know that there's going to be a wait, then maybe you can just try to go in to see what the queue is, see if there's going to be a lot of calls. If there is, then maybe even just try to get the student on the phone if they're trying to get to the library, so at least you can get yourself into that line. We don't want to have people be using the queue and the conference option if you don't have a student on the phone, because if you were the AC waiting next in line and that junior had to take 5-10 minutes to wait to get that student on the phone, that wouldn't be fair to other people. So again, it's kind of like now, if you are requesting, you have to have that student on the phone. Spencer, FAFSA verification, still have to wait in conference. Now, if you are just verifying that an ICER or a FAFSA has been done, or if we have it, you can request that in the FA Skype room, and then put in their ICER verification, FAFSA verification, because the FA Skype room will still be used for anything that you are not needing to transfer the student to the actual junior planner. So if there's something you need to transfer them, then you will need to get into the queue. If not, then we will be able to, you can do it through that FA Skype room. So Phoenix and Salt Lake City will be in the pool of available FAFSA helpers. Correct, of course it is whoever answers the call for the whatever junior answers, they will schedule that student with their center's planners. What if you are in Salt Lake City queue and 10 minutes passes, but you're next in line, and then you're sent to Phoenix queue, but their wait is also close to 10 minutes? When you would have been next in line for Salt Lake's? Great question with that one. As far as that goes, if you are in the queue for 10 minutes and then you get sent over to the Phoenix queue, if somebody in the Salt Lake queue becomes available before the 10 minutes in the Phoenix, you'll be sent back over to that queue into the Salt Lake queue, into that student, into that junior planner.
Megan, can I jump in on something on this really quick?
Yes.
Guys, keep in mind, we have tested this. We also recognize that we've tested it on fairly light days. And so it's very possible as we continue to roll this forward that we're going to find that we'll tweak some things along the way. So, and I'm sure that for some of you, you recognize what we are rolling out is the way that situations are now, and that we are going to evaluate the situation. We're going to evaluate how things are going. And it's very likely that we'll make some adjustments and tweaks to this process as we get more and more information. But please recognize we are looking to make this much easier for you. The question that was just asked is one that Megan can tell you. In some of the meetings that we were in, we went back and forth on that one for a little while, trying to make sure, hey, how do we handle this correctly? So trust us that yes, this will start this way, and as we find things that we need to tweak, we will tweak them over time. Back over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. All right, I'm going to quickly try to go through some of these questions so we still leave time for our top performer. So Kelly asks, what do we do if the wait is over an hour? Can we call the student back when more FPs are available? Yes, you can, but you will unfortunately probably take your place out of the queue and then have to get back in. So probably not the best idea. That's where you need to be coming up with some talking points, right? You can be coming up with some different things of what you can be going over with that student, whether it's going over the scholarship for in-house scholarship applications, or if you want to be talking about getting their docs, having them try to get their docs over to you, or anything like that. David, if the student does the FAFSA on their own, are we not having the juniors check them still? You are having them check them. Are you normally transferring them to the junior to have them check, or are they just going in online? Again, if you're not needing to transfer the student to the junior, If it's just maybe a question about the FAFSA, like you're trying to determine if they'll be independent or dependent, you can still request the FAFSA helps in that FA Skype room. If it is just a scheduling of the FAA that you don't need to transfer the student to the junior, you can still do that in that FA Skype room. If it's still a loan check, you still do that in that Skype room. However, if there's ever a need for you to transfer the student to the junior planner, that is when you will need to go and get into that queue. So whatever your process is now, if you have to transfer them to have them check a FAFSA or to do something like that, then you'll still follow that same process. Tim, if the call is transferred to Salt Lake City after 10 minutes from Phoenix, what happens to the call if they are in the Salt Lake City queue after 10 minutes? Then they'll be transferred back to the Phoenix queue. So again, if they're both really busy, and we know there's certain times, we all know in the afternoons, the wait times are a little bit longer for our junior financial planners. Toward, the closer they get to the deadline, it's going to be a little bit longer of a wait time. So if they're in the queue for Salt Lake for 10 minutes and they go to Phoenix for 10 minutes, nobody answers, they'll go back to the Salt Lake queue for 10 minutes, and it will just keep putting them back and forth, and you'll be able to know, because each time that it transfers you to a different center or it's put you in their queue, you'll hear either connecting or one moment please, and that will be able to help you identify. If the student has completed the FAFSA on their own, do we still have a junior check it before we ask for an FAA, even if the numbers are available for the FA template? I would maybe just let them know when you're scheduling. I mean, I don't know what your process is now, Melissa. Do you have to transfer them to the junior in order to have them check that? And this junior talks to the student? If so, then you'll still follow that process and put them in the FAQ. If you do not have to transfer that student to the junior to check the FAFSA, then you still do it through the FA Skype room. Phoenix actually goes live on Monday, the 30th. So Salt Lake, anyone that is using the Salt Lake FA Skype room right now, you guys will go live starting tomorrow morning. Anyone that uses the Phoenix FA Skype room, they will go live starting on Monday. Nathaniel, I hope I got this right. So the wait time is 10 minutes, then switch to Phoenix, for example, wait 10 minutes. If queue is full, switches back to Salt Lake and repeat until either Salt Lake or Phoenix answers. Yes, that is correct. It'll just keep going until somebody at some point in one of the centers will answer. In the Skype room, can we ask to see how many people are waiting in the FAFSA queue? You absolutely can. Of course, if there are more than 3 calls, they will be updating that FA Skype room, but you can always ask to see or ask what the queue is if you need to. Let's see, do you keep your spot in the queue if transferred to the other city's queue? So yeah, I mean, if you're first in line there, then you'll go up to the, you'll be put into their queue. Now, I'm not exactly sure, you guys, I'll be honest. I'm not exactly sure if that means you're put to the front of the line in Phoenix, or if that means that you'll be next in line in Phoenix. But again, if you were first in line in Salt Lake and transferred to Phoenix, and a Salt Lake agent becomes available, you'll go back to that Salt Lake junior. So I'm not exactly positive on how that works. I wish I had all these answers, but I don't, because kind of like Todd said, when we did do the test group, it was a little bit slower, and we were aware of that. We knew that. So we'll be able to find out definitely more of these answers as well as we go live tomorrow here for Salt Lake. Awesome. Any other questions before we turn the time over to Todd? Does the student hear all the transfer messages from transfers from Phoenix to Salt Lake? Yeah, and it's just really quiet. They did it for me and Jamie when we were doing our call when it said connecting. So they'll hear it, but again, that's just where you can let them know, kind of like Jamie said, okay, while we're trying to get a junior financial planner on the phone, let's talk about this, and we can go from there. Let's see, Lyman, what is the main reason for the change? Kind of like Todd talked about with the benefits. There's really a lot of benefits that will go into this. If you're waiting in Salt Lake and someone in Phoenix is available, it'll be a little bit quicker for you to be helped instead of having to wait for 20, 30 minutes here in Salt Lake for a Salt Lake junior when we have someone in Phoenix available as well. It allows you that if you're waiting for a junior to answer the call and you need to end the call, instead of having to put your request in the financial aid room to cancel it and to do all of that, you can just simply stop the conference. It is first come, first serve. So if there'll be no chances of anybody someone taking a request over somebody else, so on and so forth. Will this Salt Lake City seniors working with Phoenix AC still be doing follow-up with students? So of course, if that student does get sent to a Salt Lake City planner, if they're a Phoenix AC and they get a Salt Lake City planner, of course that Salt Lake planner will take it on as if they're their own student and do the follow-up with them and take them on until they are packaged and done. All right, any other questions? While you guys were doing the practice live call, we heard the ringing while she was still trying to engage the student. Is that going to happen? Yes, that is a possibility. So, of course, ours connected right away because there was nobody in that queue. There'll be a ringing and then it will connect and then it will go silent. So if you want to wait for it to go silent before you start going into your, talking points with them, that's fine. But there will still be that ringing for that. So which choice do we select when we initially transfer? Erica, it depends on what center you're in. If you are, if you're a Phoenix AC or you use the Phoenix FA Skype room, you'll choose the FP transfer to Phoenix. If you are a Salt Lake City AC or you use the Salt Lake City FA Skype room, you'll use the option for transferring to Salt Lake City. So again, it just depends on what center you report to.
And you guys remember, it's not transferring, and I know it's going to be something hard to get the out of the habit of saying transferring or even doing transferring. We're going to do conference now. It's a slightly different process, and it's imperative for you to remember that it is a conference. And the main reason for that is, just like Megan mentioned earlier, so you and your student could continue to conversate while you're waiting for the financial planner. It's not like they're on hold while you're on hold and everyone's just kind of on hold, right? You and them can carry on that conversation while both of you are on hold.
Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. I'm sure I keep saying transfer as well. So that's definitely going to be a habit that we all have to try to break, of saying transfer. Let's see, Jen, what time will they stop taking calls at the end of the day? So, it kind of depends on their shift. We have people here that are covered. It's the same process as it is now. We have people that are here from 7 to 4, 8 to 5, 11 to 8, 10 to 7. So they're going to be adjusting their schedules to make sure that everything, that they have full coverage during that time. All right, well, it looks like the questions have kind of slowed down now. So Todd, I will go ahead and let you go ahead and take over here so you can be doing the top performer. And then if there are questions, we can continue to address them in that Q&A room.
All right, I appreciate that. I just noticed a question came through from Teresa. Will there still be full coverage on Saturday? Guys, nothing has changed about scheduling. The only thing that has changed is the mechanism that we use to connect your student to a JFP. So there is any concerns about changes in schedules, about who might be available, about whether or not we have the same ratios in place, all of those kinds of things. Put your hearts at ease, because nothing has changed on our scheduling. The only thing that has changed is the mechanism that we are using to connect our JFP, our students to the JFP to be able to move forward with the FAFSA. So now, Rachel, will you go ahead and unmute your microphone?
Yes.
There she is. Wonderful. Rachel, I don't know if you saw my message earlier. Do you want me to be your, do you want me to advance the slides for you as you talk through your presentation, or do you want to try and use the remote control of my screen?
I find the remote control terrifying. I'll let you do that.
All right, so I will go ahead and when you tell me next slide, I will go ahead and move those forward. I'll try and guess your mind, since you and I have kind of talked through this once already. But just in case I miss it, don't hesitate to say, "Hey, Vanna, move the slide forward."
Oh, Vanna.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Rachel Nielsen with us. She is our top performer that we are highlighting this week. I encourage you all to give her your absolute attention, and she's going to walk us through one of the things that makes her a top performer.
Awesome. All right. Well, I was thinking about what I could talk about with this, and I thought it was interesting that when I talked to a couple people about what I had done that had helped them when I talked to them, it was about kind of setting an overall contact expectation with your students. So by that I mean, whenever you set a contact schedule for yourself and you set that expectation with your students, I think you feel like you are less flying by the seat of your pants than you are having a really good expectation of what to do moving forward. So when I say contact expectations, just an overall view of how you're going to work with a student in terms of contact. So how often, so frequency, the reasons you're going to contact a student, the reasons they're going to contact you, and the best ways to contact each other. So that's kind of what I mean by setting a contact expectation overall for everybody. So at the beginning of an interview, something that we all do is we establish our role as an AC. So my job is to interview and recommend the qualified candidates for our online degree programs, or however you say it if you're less verbatim than me. But we set up that original AC role at the very beginning, and that works very well. But I found that toward the end of the interview, it did a very good thing for me and helped me improve if I reestablished the AC role and what I was going to do moving forward. And establishing that AC role meant, this is how I will stay in contact with you. My job is to help you in this process. This is your job. This is what you do as a student, but I will help you. So I tell them I will guide them. I said I will contact you on how to be a great applicant. I'll send you hints. For example, don't miss a finance appointment. They're busy. They have a lot to do, but they'll be prepared for you. Don't miss those. I'll contact you about that. I'll make sure that you're not lost. You know, you don't fall through the cracks. I'll keep an eye on you, make sure everything's going through. I hope you contact me with moments of doubt, things like that. And so setting up that expectation of how often I'm going to contact you, how often you're going to contact me, that really helps when you reestablish your AC role. This can also help when you're waiting in the FAFSA lane, which we've been talking about, is just talking about, hey, how often are you going to contact me, things like that. And so what I did when I first set up a whole contact strategy for myself is I started with the end in mind, which is also what I tell students to do. So I figured I may as well follow that expectation myself. So I identified some hold-up spots where contact might be necessary. So maybe the background check, early admissions course, when they lose motivation, that seems to be a hold-up spot for me. Participation in that first week, or when they're with finance. These are all spots where I found that contact became necessary, so I wanted to plan ahead on how I might also contact these students in these specific situations. So with the contact expectations, I mentioned this at the beginning, it's how often will I contact you and how often do you expect to contact me? Are you nervous? Do you think that you'll be sending me a text just so I can expect how you're going to contact me, how often? If you have a concern, I like to establish with them, how soon will you contact me if you have concerns? If you're concerned about anything, don't sit there, don't let it fester in your brain, don't let it stress you out. I want you to contact me within 5 minutes of having a really stressful thought, or 10 minutes, or whatever you guys decide that you want to do. But I found that this helps. I had a student who was really stressed about the student loans. She thought that was crazy stressful. And I said, look, anytime you're feeling stressed, I want you to text me within 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, okay? Send it in. And she started doing that. And I've had a couple students, they'll text me, they'll be like, I'm stressed about student loans. Remind me how this works again, or severed loans, you know, that kind of thing. And I'll get them in contact with finance. I'll do whatever I have to do. But I ask them, this is how soon I want you to contact me with your concerns. Also, best method. We have the students that don't text. These students make me cry inside. Like, I die a little bit inside when I have a student who doesn't text, but we do have them. And so I talk to them about how often do you want me to, how do you want me to contact you? Email, call, what's the best way? And then also make very clear to them the best way to get in touch with you guys. This is the best way to contact me. I'm often on an interview, email's a great way, or whatever works for you. Give them an idea of why they might contact you, why you might contact them. I might contact you if I don't see something happening to make sure that you're okay. I'm kind of a mama hen. I'm gonna call you if you don't get things done, just so you know, it's all out of love, or whatever you have to do. And also the last one on this was the hugest, that we're gonna go with it, one for me, in the sense that I said, no matter what happens, I want a response. I don't care what it is. If it's just a, okay, got it, but I want at least a one-word response for everything I send you to make sure that we are still on the same page. That was a really big one for me. Background check, lots of holdups on background checks for me. So I set up when I talked to them in the first place, I said, okay, when are you going to have it done by? Give me a date. And then I said, do you want me to remind you? Do you want me to get in contact with you to remind you? When do you want me to remind you? If, and I don't even give them if you don't do it. I just assume they're going to do it. But I do ask, is there a reminder? Do you want one, and what date? The early admissions course, which I affectionately call the early admissions course orientation because it's all squished together in my head now, I do talk to them. I said, if you have a problem with it, what's going to be your contact plan? When are you going to contact me? How are you going to contact me? Obviously, all the things that we talked about just applied to each of these hold-up spots. Do you want a reminder for the early admissions course? Those types of things seem to work really well for me. I had a student who didn't want to do the early admissions course. He just thought he was the best ever and didn't want to do it. And so I said, okay, so you want me to remind you until you do it? I can call every single day. I don't mind. I'll call every day. He got really freaked out, and then he did it because I set up that contact expectation there as well. Finance, this changed my life with getting students through the process, which was the contact expectations in regards to finance. Because when I lose a student in the finance stage, I start to itch, things go bad. Ask my team, I get a little crazy. So I started to set up a time with finance expectations, not just with the student, but also with the financial planners. With the students, I said they will work with you. So when will you contact with them? And I will talk to the finance planners. What is the best way for the student to contact you? How do you like to be contacted by the student? How well does that work for you? And if you get to know a little bit about each finance planner, they do things differently, just like we do everything differently. So being able to talk to them about contact expectations, and then also the contact expectations that you have with your finance planner. I will tell a finance planner and say, hey, I do not want to bug you, so please just let me know what's the best way to get in touch with you. What's the best way I can ask? Because I'm just looking to help. So just let me know. I don't mean to bug you, just be aware of that. And them knowing how often you're going to contact them, how they're going to contact you, and how the student will contact the finance planner, that's a really huge thing in terms of expectation, rather than you emailing somebody and not getting a response, which is very, very frustrating and slows down the whole process. So I think this, if you go away with nothing else, this was a huge, huge step for me, is setting up expectations on contact with finance. Motivation. We all get the motivation from our students throughout the initial interview. So we all caps, you know, motivation, at least I do. This was their motivation. But in the original conversation, I tell them, I will contact you if I feel like you're losing motivation, or please contact me if you feel like you're losing motivation. That's normal. But I do find out what their motivation is, and I tell them, may I remind you when I contact you? May I tell you, hey, you did this because you're a single mom. You said that you want to turn your life around, that you've been homeless, and you swore that you would never be homeless with your kids again. So can I keep it real with you? And I've done that. I've actually talked to a woman. I say, look, I know that you're frustrated right now, and I know that you're discouraged with the process. Has anything changed? Are you still a single mom? Do you still want to support your kids? Are you going to risk being homeless? And I've never had a student say, no, I can't keep it real. So that's been hugely effective for me, is just to let them know ahead of time, I will call you out in the nicest, most professional, even loving way possible, but I will do it. And so that really helps. That's helped me throughout the process. Participation is obviously a huge one. This is a place where I've lost students. I'm sure we all have. So I tell my students in the initial interview, look, I'm going to contact you via email. I have email templates I send out to my students day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the first week. And it says, hey, just do this today. Just do this today. But my students know from the very beginning that I'm going to send that to them. And it's going to say, and my day 2 one says, hey, if you didn't log in yesterday, it's okay. This is what you do today. And they know that I will send out that email every single day. To contact me if they need anything. What will I be communicating with you is another thing. In the first week, I send those templates out. I give them, you know, a little template, say, hey, fill this in. Tell me how you're going to do your first week of scheduling, or whatever I have to do. But they know ahead of time that I will be on them, very friendly like, but saying, hey, this is how I'm going to contact you. This is what I will be sending you. And this is the response that I expect from you. So essentially, it's just setting yourself up as a contact resource. Establishing that AC role is going to be a huge thing, I think. It has been for me. I've really enjoyed it in the sense that I feel like I'm more in control. And as we all feel out of control sometimes in this, I mean, keep it real, we do. So feeling like we have some control because we know how often we contact. And then also set yourself up something. You know, I contact a student every 2 days. I do whatever you got to do, but know ahead of time how often you're going to contact a student, the reasons you're going to contact them, and how you're going to contact them, and the other way around, and with finance. And I think this should help. I hope it helps, but it's made a really, really big difference for me.
Rachel, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. I know everyone else does. I'm seeing some things there in the room. A couple of people saying, "Hey, can you send us your lists or your canned emails?" Ladies and gentlemen, can I suggest before you ask Rachel and flood her with all of those requests, maybe one of the first things that you could do would be to ask your ADOA to see if they have any templates that maybe they have developed that you haven't gotten from them first, or if they have shared those and you just want to get a different perspective on that, certainly sending that request out is appropriate, but recognize that your ADOAs have a lot of those kinds of resources as well. So there you go. We do have a few minutes left before we end this meeting, or before the official end. We're going to end a couple minutes early, but I just wanted to reiterate the importance of our Top Performers Corner. Several of you earlier that last year received an email or were recommended via email to me as a top performer. If you feel that you would like to be highlighted as one of our top performers, that you've got something that you do that has been particularly valuable in helping you move forward and move the needle on your performance in working with your students and helping bridge the gaps between where they might fall off the process and helping them continue to move forward to the point where they are changing the direction of their lives because of the education that we give, I would suggest that you send an email to your ADOA, and ADOAs, as you receive those emails, if you think that those individuals truly are one of your top performers and that you would like to have them present for us, please forward those over to me. And then, of course, if you get an email from somebody saying, "Hey, I think I'm a top performer," and maybe they're not quite there yet, take that as an opportunity to do a little bit of coaching with them and get them to the point where they are a really bona fide top performer so that we can have them present for us as well. The Top Performers Corner is something that we will be featuring on each of our calls moving forward throughout the rest of the year. We've got if there were 26 total calls, and we missed one last week and we've got one down today, that means that we've got the possibility of 24 of our top performers to be able to present to us at some point in time during the year. So if you are one, if you would like to be one, and if you would like to present, make sure you're sending that information over to your ADOAs so that we can get the benefit of all of your wisdom and all of your experiences to try and make all of us better as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at 2:28. I'm going to go ahead and...
Todd, yeah, before we let them go, sorry.
I was actually just going to stop the recording.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We did